Ready to roll? Okay. Welcome everybody to the Monday, July 22nd, very rainy meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education. In accordance with the State Sunshine Law of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Hillsborough Township Board of Education was provided on July 17th, 2019 to the Hillsborough Beacon and the Courier News. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Dr. Harris? Here. Ms. Eldridge Howard? Here. Ms. Maroon?
Here.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Here.
Dr. Sasan?
Here.
Ms. Stats?
Here.
Ms. Trujillo? Here. And Ms. Haas?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. We're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance at this moment and go right into executive session. And I will read the motion. Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231 of the laws of 1975, provides that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of a meeting of which the public body discusses certain matters for which confidentiality is required as permitted in Section 7B of the Act, resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Hillsborough and the County of Somerset and the State of New Jersey as follows. The matters to be discussed are legal matters, personnel matters, and negotiations with the Hillsborough Education Association. The matters discussed in executive session shall be disclosed to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. May I have a motion and second for the motion to go into executive?
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll be in executive session. We'll be back out hopefully at 7:30. Hi, sorry for the delay in getting this meeting started, but I would like to ask for a roll call at this time.
Sure. Mr. Gillette?
Here.
Dr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Here.
Ms. Maroon?
Here.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Here.
Dr. Sasan?
Here.
Ms. Stats?
Here.
Ms. Trujillo? Here. And Ms. Haas?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Can everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. We'll move quickly to the approval of minutes. May I have a motion for approval of the minutes of the regular public meeting held on June 24th,
So moved.
2019,
Second.
please? Thank you. Always fun to finish my sentence before it happens. Okay. I would just like to make one statement about the minutes. It was brought to our attention that we had on the June 24th minutes an item to approve novels, and several of those books were actually nonfiction. So we checked, and we can't amend the minutes because it was approved as approval of novels. However, going forward, we will be otherwise identifying any of the books that we approve for the agenda. So just wanted to put that in the public record, and thank you to the person who brought that to my attention. Anyway, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Good. Okay, minutes approved. We recognize the correspondence that we got. Thank you very much for that. And now we go to comments from the board and public. We'll start with the public. Are there any people in the public who would like to speak? We welcome your input. This is one of 2 times that the public is invited to speak, where at the beginning of the meeting you could speak on anything that's listed on the agenda before the board votes. At the end of the meeting, there's another public comment period to address any topic. Before you make your comment, please state your name and address clearly. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. Please understand that these are not structured as question and answer sessions, but rather are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board believes there's been a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent will address the comment. There may be times when a member of the public makes a comment or asks a question about personnel or hiring decisions. New Jersey statutes do not permit the board to discuss personnel issues in public session. With that, any public comment?
Hello, Amy Salinger, teacher at Alton Road Intermediate School and HEA treasurer. As I read through the action agenda for tonight's meeting and saw the list of appointments for the upcoming school year, I noticed several teachers who appeared to be at the start of their career. When I think back to the start of my career, I remember how excited I was to set up my classroom and make it feel as warm and welcoming as possible for my students. I was lucky enough to have a family member give me a gift card to Staples, and off I went. I got as much as I could and started to stock my classroom. This continued for several years. In fact, if you were to go to any Target, Staples, even ShopRite, you will probably see a teacher looking for deals and bargains on items to benefit the students who will soon be in their classroom. A quick search of a local Facebook group will show endless posts by teachers and support staff asking for donations of books and shelves for classroom libraries, rugs for a reading area, furniture for flexible seating, and many more. If you search even further, you will find dedicated groups for teacher item swaps and other donation-specific type groups. Some teachers even look to crowdsourcing for various classroom projects. Recently, stores like Target, Staples, and Michael's are making headlines for offering teacher discounts for back to school. At first glance, this may all seem nice and supportive. I used to think so too. But recently, a very wise colleague of mine pointed out something unique about this yearly ritual for teachers. She challenged us to think about any other professional who regularly bought supplies for their job. It is expected that our literacy teachers have classroom libraries and a reading nook with a carpet area. We have all been encouraged to consider flexible seating. I don't know a staff member who doesn't want to make their classroom as inviting as possible for students. Yes, we get a school supply budget every year, but over time, those budgets have been reduced. One bouncy chair can cost about $50, throw in a rug, and you're close to, if not over, your budget. The reality is that for years, teachers and support staff have been spending their own money to perform their job. That's just not sustainable or appropriate. The scientist does not buy their own lab equipment. The law firm employees do not buy their own legal pads, and the architects at a company do not buy their own blueprints. A list like this could go on and on. Principals and supervisors often share latest trends and best practices with us. A lot of this includes supplies and items that would need to be purchased to achieve the desired outcome. I challenge you to think about what you envision our classrooms to be versus what you provide to make that vision a reality. There is a meme out there on the internet showing the before and after of a teacher-funded classroom versus a Board of Ed-funded classroom. I'm sure many of my colleagues here tonight have seen it. Let's just say that the teacher-funded classroom offers students much more. Imagine what the classrooms of Hillsborough would look like if we removed all the items purchased with our own money. No staff should be funding classroom supplies. Our role is to educate. The position you are elected to is supposed to support that. Take-home pay has gone down for almost 10 years, and there's no immediate relief in sight. This board continues to offer us less and expects us to take it and say thank you. With all due respect, thank you but no thank you to Target, Staples, and to this board.
Good evening, Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association, as well as Laurel Drive. Over the past several months, we've spoken of our district's losses following the failed referendum. The decisions made to reduce shrinking budgets further, to cut over 50 positions, and choosing not to fill positions vacated by retiring educators have shortchanged our students, and our district will be forever impacted. Your position in negotiations will only worsen these issues. It is baffling how, despite the vocalization, you choose to treat the concerns and needs of our members with indifference and lip service. You have allowed your own dysfunction to hurt our district and harm our members. You made the decision to silently rubber stamp the flawed vision that brought us to this point while expounding your pride in the reputation that our members built. The only thing you have not done is listen to any voices outside of your own. Hillsborough has always prided itself on providing an excellent education to our children, and our schools are a vital reason why our community is consistently named among the best places to live. Our schools draw new residents and exceptional educators alike. Many of the people seated at the table before us have lauded the number of applications we receive for each position. Unfortunately, recent choices have ensured that we are now in a position where applicants are turning down positions offered or not applying at all. The very reputation that our members, our students, and our community have built is being undermined and undone by your actions and your inactions. You have no hesitation in taking credit for the success of our schools, but your actions demonstrate that you do not value our community's values and instead enjoy basking in the accolades that you did not work to earn. As these dire losses loomed, we questioned decisions, proposed alternatives, requested documents, but nothing changed from the people at this table. And while those losses are disastrous, it's what you've found that should be a focus tonight as we discuss why we are truly at impasse. You've found the funds for 3 positions through the restructuring of Chromebook leases as we proposed, but no positions were refilled, and more jobs were cut than you predicted before even considering this an option. You found over $200,000 in savings and lower healthcare costs transitioning to a new broker this month. You found an excess of over $800,000 through replacing retiring staff with new hires or possibly not refilling the position at all. At a previous board meeting, you in fact admitted to finding this breakage and the fact that it was not included in the construction of the budget, so it would be, quote, found surplus in the coming year. Aside from breakage, you also found a surplus of over $800,000 at a time when our job security is in question, our budgets are shrinking, and our class sizes stand to increase substantially. And you also found a yet-to-be-determined amount of funds through the taxation of our students and their educational access by imposing countless fees, funds that will likely be used to increase surplus, not fund the actual clubs, teams, or activities that they are paying to take part in now. At a previous board meeting, you passed a vote, I believe unanimously, that stated that any found money would be used to reinstate positions, but none have been restored. Where has this found money gone? You've often spoken of your admiration and support of our members, claiming their success for your own, but you refuse to provide them with the stability and respect of a fair and equitable contract, even though you've already budgeted to do so. Each of you was elected to guide our district and make decisions that safeguard its educational legacy. It doesn't matter if you sit only at this table or at the negotiations table as well. You are responsible, each and every one of you. You are responsible for our students' success, accountable to our members, and answerable to the citizens of Hillsborough. Each of you must find the resolve to do what is right and take steps to begin rebuilding what has recently been dismantled. While we wait to no avail to see evidence of your dedication to rebuilding our school district, our educators remain dedicated to our students and continue to advocate for them. Unfortunately, all that we have seen thus far is your willingness to spend tens of thousands of dollars on attorney fees as you unnecessarily drag negotiations out in lieu of investing that money in our schools and the people who teach our children. I urge you to reconsider your course of action and instead focus on rebuilding our school district and maintaining our reputation as a great place to raise a family. We need to get on a constructive path to remediate the disastrous effects of our failed referendum. Our children, our members, and our community deserve nothing less. Each of you must decide what role you will play. Will you continue to be a roadblock, an obstacle, or will you meet the charge of your position and support the success of our students and schools? This path starts with a fair and equitable contract. The community and our members are waiting to see if you will find the will to take this action as we have easily found the things that we enumerated tonight. Thank you.
I don't recall that vote. Oh, you should not vote. Every time we vote, it's because it's
Good evening, Elena Masseri, HEA Second Vice President, Hillsborough High School. In late spring, I stood before you, as I always do, to applaud and recognize the efforts and contributions that our HEA members make, not only inside their respective buildings, but in the community as well. And just because the school year ended, this doesn't mean that that has stopped. You will always find our HEA members doing volunteer activities, whether it be Special Olympics or through the religious organizations, and a huge portion of the staff works in the extended school year program, the ELL program, summer enrichment. If you go to the library any given day, you will see large amounts of teachers tutoring. This is all to make ends meet, to pay the mortgage, to pay the electric bill, to survive. We are disappointed that after 9 hours during the first mediation session, no agreement was made. In late spring, I stood before you and asked, despite declaration of impasse, that we come together to settle a fair and appropriate contract. Despite the daunting weather alerts, as you can see, many of our members came here tonight to demand the same. We deserve better. Our students deserve better. Settle the contract. We remain engaged. As you can see, we remain united, and we are the HEA.
Are there any other speakers? Okay. Moving on.
Comments from the board?
We'll move on now to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone. We have 2 administrative appointments tonight that we would like to share with the board and with the community. First, Tony DeLucia is being recommended to be our next Director of Buildings and Grounds. Tony has been working as a custodian, maintenance person, and supervisor and foreman since 1993 in the district. This will be the first time in close to 20 years that we are hiring one of our own. We have privatized for many, many years the leadership in the Buildings and Grounds Department, and I'm very pleased and excited that for the first time in almost a generation, we have one of our employees who's being promoted from within. Please join with me in expressing our appreciation to Mr. Anthony DeLucia, who is here with his wife, Renee, and his son, Christopher, and daughter, Jessica. Before we recognize you formally, I'm just going to ask that the board move it's item 12.6 to the front of the agenda, and we'll do each of these separately. So if it's all right with the chair, maybe move that to the front of the agenda.
Absolutely.
So moved.
So it is my pleasure and honor to recommend Mr. Anthony DeLucia to be our next Director of Buildings and Grounds, effective July 23rd, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. This is a new position in the district, eliminating our privatization of our leadership, Aramark, and I ask for the board's consideration of my serious and enthusiastic recommendation.
Okay. A motion and a second. Is there any questions or comments?
May I ask, this is only for this position? We're going to vote on the other position?
Yeah, we're going to vote on the other position separately.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Sasan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
And Ms. Haas?
Thank you very much and welcome. I can't say welcome. You've been here forever.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
It is also my honor and my distinct pleasure to recommend for the board's consideration our next Supervisor of Fine and Performing Arts, Mr. Christopher Ireland. Mr. Ireland is currently the Hillside Intermediate Instrumental Music teacher right next door in Bridgewater. He has worked there. He has also worked in Plainfield. He has held a variety of leadership positions in Bridgewater, including EMT Director, Fire Commissioner, and Chief of Bradley Gardens Rescue Squad. He holds a bachelor's degree from Ithaca College, graduating cum laude, and a master's degree of education and educational leadership from the College of New Jersey. So I ask for the board's consideration to move 12.6B, which is Christopher's appointment.
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a comment, and I'm going to apologize in advance because Mr. Ireland is with his family. During the April budget cycle, we talked about one of the suggestions was to eliminate several supervisory positions, and one of the suggestions, which did not make it to the final budget, was the supervisor of visual performing arts and related arts. And I'm voting no tonight on the position, not the person. And it's a hard decision, but in the sense that it's actually, it relates to a real person. But during the budget cycle, we lost a lot of people. And no matter how, it's a hard thing to do, and I apologize to the person, but I just feel like during this process of the budget for 2020 to 2021, we are going to be in the same position as we were April 2019 if we don't make changes in the way we're thinking. And I just feel that we should postpone filling this position and splitting the duties and responsibilities among the supervisors that remain until we can figure out what we do next. So I apologize to Mr. Ireland and his family. It's the position, not the person.
Any other comments? Roll call.
I agree with the sentiment that Ms. Trujillo is expressing. In fact, I had even suggested eliminating this position before it was offered, before the opportunity for it to be replaced. However, at this time, I think it would be inappropriate, but the symbolism of what Ms. Trujillo is very important. As she said, we're probably going to be in the same position next April, and maybe this symbolic act, if nothing else, will spur us to start thinking now as to how we're going to deal with that problem that will probably occur in April.
Well, just as a point of information, the current position is a position that resulted when another supervisory position was eliminated in the area of applied technology. And there is a large span of responsibility for this position, not only for supervising teachers, but for supporting teachers and supporting curriculum and moving forward our educational program. So with all due respect, I heartily disagree. I think our district is very much at a disadvantage not having a supervisor of nursing that we've had, which was eliminated during the budget process, as well as a supervisor of health and physical education, which every single kid in our district takes health and physical education. I guess I just heartily disagree. So with that, are there any other comments? Yes, Anne.
I would just like to say that many of the students in our district are excellent fine arts and performing arts students, and that is because of the leadership and guidance that we have in our district. And this is not just for this year or past years, it's for many years. My daughter was a fine arts major because of her position here at Hillsborough when she went to high school. I think that many students look forward to coming and doing their fine arts along with their academics. Sometimes that lifts them up and gives them more of a leadership role. And I think that it should be one of the positions that we are always looking at in favor of the students. And that's what I most wholeheartedly agree.
Thank you very much.
I
Anybody else?
I just don't want it this, I really don't think suggesting the elimination of this position is a reflection of anyone's value of what areas that person supervises. It's because of making hard decisions, just as they've eliminated teachers of several subject areas. Hopefully that's not a reflection on the value of those subject areas. So I would hope we would not ascribe any kind of judgment about the value of any of those areas that this supervisor covers. It's certainly not a reflection on how important they are.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Sasan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
No.
Ms. Haas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations, Kristen. Christopher is also joined by his lovely wife, Carrie, and he has a son, Michael, unfortunately, who couldn't be here. We thank both and congratulate both Tony and Chris. We look forward to working with both of you. Congratulations. And now it's my pleasure to share some great news from around the district. First, Hillsborough High School students Jason Spinrod and Wasif Sami were selected to be part of the Paper Mill Playhouse Summer Music Theater Conservatory for 2019. Jason and Wasif were selected to perform in a fully produced original concert entitled New Voices of 2019. Learn your lessons well. Congratulations to both Jason and Wasif. This past week, the district's English language learners in grades kindergarten through 11th grade finished their 2-week academic enrichment program. The program provided opportunities for close to 80 students to continue their English language acquisition during the summer and participate in activities and field trips such as the Franklin Institute and Insectropolits. I would like to also thank all of the teachers and the staff that supported this wonderful program and Mr. Roberto Lugo for his leadership. Let's give them a big round of applause. Middle school principal and computer resource teacher, Ms. Mary Ellen Davies, attended ISTE, which is, I believe that stands for the International Society for Technology Educators, in 2019 in Philadelphia. And this was in June, and they also took a great deal of Hillsborough Middle School students. And I do have some pictures to share with the board and the community on this. Let's see, did that work? There we go. So the kids actually wrote a proposal with the help of their teacher, and the proposal was to set up a table where they would display their work. These were the student tech helpers that worked with other students, and the kids would earn badges as they learned different skills with their technology. Here's Mary Ellen. And here are the kids. They did a wonderful job. By the way, this is an international technology conference attended by people throughout the country, actually throughout the world. Let's give our middle school students and staff a big round of applause. There we go. Continuing on, the Hillsborough Township Summer Enrichment Program was tremendously successful. The 2-week program ran from July 8th through July 19th. This year, there were 53 courses that were run by 31 certificated teachers with 605 students participating. Some of the interesting courses: This is just a sample, certainly. A week in Italy, cake baking and decorating. Becoming an artist in 5 days, science and venture, and much more. I would like to thank all of those teachers, the parents who supported the program, as well as the students for making this year's summer enrichment a wonderful success. I'm also pleased to announce that the Chamber of Commerce, a digital resource for small business owners and entrepreneurs, recently named Hillsborough the 6th best city to live in New Jersey for 2019. They ranked over 2,500 qualified cities with populations above 25,000 in 5 factors: employment, housing, quality of life, education, and health. Congratulations to our wonderful township for being named in the top 10 of all cities by the Chamber of Commerce. Just some additional highlights from our athletic department. Varsity basketball coach Eric Eden was named the Skyland Conference Coach of the Year. Congratulations, Eric. Varsity softball coach Cheryl Ione earned her 400th career win. That's tremendous, too. Both the boys' volleyball and baseball teams were Skyland Conference championships. Won Skyland Conference championships this year. Our girls' softball team were Somerset County champions. And finally, girls track and field were Skyland Conference champions, Skyland Conference relay champions, Somerset County champions, and Somerset County relay champions. Congratulations. Now, I did want to turn to something that's actually a little unfortunate that happened in our community. Last week, there was a flyer that was put on the Township Municipal Building, and it had anti-Semitic hate speech on it. This is not a reflection of our community. We are good, kind, supportive people. Our diversity is our strength. Our diversity is our promise of a more perfect union. I actually, it kind of affected me, honestly. And what you may not know is that the municipal complex, especially out there, for those of you watching on YouTube, the municipal complex not only holds the police department, the library, and all the municipal offices, it also holds the Board of Education offices as well. We were affected by this also. And sometimes I go to poetry, kind of inspire me. And there's a poem that speaks to me. It's by Maya Angelou, and it's called Still I Rise. Some of you may know this. I'd like to read to you a little bit of this. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Do you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. As a father, as a son, as an uncle of many nieces and nephews, as an educator, and as a Jew, I rise against hate. If you believe the same, please join with me. I rise against hate. Kaz, if you could circle around. Let our community see that we are united, standing against hate. Madam President, I'm not done, but I'm finished with my report.
I was also going to address this latest incident of anti-Semitism in the community. And I would just say to everybody in the community, there's like a real simple rule here. It's called treat others the way you'd like to be treated. Very simple. And, you know, to parents, please have those uncomfortable conversations with your kids, and model your behavior and do something when you witness injustice. I think it's become like really extra important at this time that we don't just let things slip off to the side. And there are a lot of really good resources on the internet and through our school system. I know that there's a whole series of materials from an organization called Teaching Tolerance that can help you with those conversations with your children. Those materials are available on the internet to some degree at www.tolerance.org. The Anti-Defamation League also has a lot of guidance. They're at www.adl.org. And there's a Families First organization that is at www.families-first.org, just as a quick study. But if you need any help, please reach out. We're here to help. And again, have these conversations because it's really important, especially at this time. So I just wanted to add that before we move on. 2 committee reports. Education Chair Lorraine Soisson.
Thank you. So the Education Committee met earlier this month. All members were present. We had a full agenda. The first item was updating our policy on opioid antidotes and administration thereof. There is a new mandate that requires that a nurse or a trained employee be available not only during school, but at after-school on-site activities in grades 9 through 12. So we are adjusting the policy, which we had in place to include that. We had some questions for our lawyer, and so it's not on the agenda tonight for first reading, but hopefully will be in August. With respect to world language enrollments, we reviewed the world language program. I'm happy to report that 48% of our students graduate with a level 4 or higher ability in world languages, which is great. We had more than 100 students, juniors and seniors, obtain a seal of biliteracy this year. About 17% of our freshmen this year were enrolled in level 3. Of course, this is just 1 year's data of us initiating our new world languages program in 2012, where we started introduction of both Spanish and Mandarin in the elementary school, and then having students choose in 5th grade. We also saw an increase, a significant increase in the number of juniors taking AP language, which really impacts us in developing curriculum so that they could continue their world language as seniors. We're going to continue to watch trends in language selection and determine whether or not that impacts our developments as we move forward. We also reviewed AP classes and enrollments, and we looked at the number of students taking AP classes, the numbers who took the test, and the numbers who scored higher than a 3. And each year we have a pretty big increase in students taking AP classes. We have a wide range of AP courses that are offered, and this year we had a record number of students taking the tests. And so we'll continue to monitor that as well to determine our course offerings. We also discussed the Link It program, which is being recommended that we switch from Performance Matters to this program, which offers more support, more features, and saves us $5,000. So that is something that the Education Committee was very happy to hear. And lastly, we reviewed the random drug testing results for this year. This year, we had performed about double the number of tests that we had done in previous years. With respect to the non-negatives, last year we had about 11% non-negatives. This year we had 12.4%. But when those were retested and viewed with a lens of whether or not kids were on prescriptions and those types of issues, the confirmed positives came out to 6.3%, which is down from 7% last year. The majority of those were THC or marijuana positives. Only one was a non-marijuana morphine positive. While we did have about 7, I think, that tested positive for morphine. But let me say that we had a zero tolerance. So in other words, if they came back with 1 microgram per milliliter of urine, that was considered positive. Whereas most tests are set a lower limit of about 200 to 300 micrograms. So we are reevaluating our lower number. You can test positive for morphine and other substances, other opiates, by eating a poppy seed bagel if the number is 0. And that was the case with 6 of those 7 people, that the number was so low that it could have been dietary cross-reactivity. So we are evaluating that, and the school physician will review that, and then we will implement whatever the outcome of those discussions are. But I think overall, the fact that we did the number of tests, doubled the number of tests from previous years, and that the confirmed positives went from 7.7% to 6.3% with those increased numbers, I think that that at least means that the problem doesn't seem to be getting worse. I mean, I don't know that 6.3 is that different from 7.7%, but at least it's trending in the right direction. And that was it for the Education Committee report. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Operations Committee?
Thank you. I'll do my best. Operations Committee met July 11th. It was a long meeting. It was so long I had to leave, so I think I missed the last few minutes of it, or maybe longer. Hopefully I missed longer. It was so long already. We start off with a discussion on the referendum that we'll be having in November. Mike Wozni, who's our architect of record, broke it all down for us by school, the projects that we'll be doing. It basically breaks down to 3 categories. The most significant category is construction maintenance projects, mostly deferred maintenance, also control of HVAC systems and replacement of some HVAC systems, also some roofs and other things.
Security.
And, well, that's my second thing. My second, I'm breaking it down to 3 areas. So that's one area. The second area is security, and that mostly has to do with constructing secure vestibules at our schools. And the third area would be completing the air conditioning projects that we've started over the last several years. In other words, we don't want to leave any schools half air conditioned anymore. Climate control is important for our students, important for their education, important for our staff. So we're those are the 3 areas. So let me. We also had Mary Lyons from Phoenix Advisors. She's going to help us sell the bonds to get this done and advise us on the financial challenges. So right now, person in the average home, taxpayer in the average home in Hillsborough pays $139 a year for our debt service. That debt service will be that's for 20-year loans. They'll be retired in about another 2 years. And this debt service, when this referendum passes, this debt service will go into effect, and this debt service will be $118 for the average home. So we're going to be replacing the debt load that we have now, which is $139. We're going to do all these projects, and the debt is going to be $118 per home. So it would actually be ultimately a decrease of about $20 per home. But these are projects that we need to do. So I think Dr. Shipp is going to present about this next month. Is that correct, at our meeting?
Yes, and the board will consider a resolution to put a question or multiple questions on the ballot for November.
But I know you like to do those, like a little slideshow of, sure. if you have the time, of what the projects are going to be. So I know you look forward to working on that, so I'll let you do that next month. The Transportation Department is continuing to roll out the new busing program with elimination of some courtesy busing. In fact, I think this week, communication is going to be sent to parents. I think it's this week. Am I right, people? This week.
Yes, that's correct.
For parents that will be, students that will be affected through courtesy busing. We also have a demographer's report. Well, we had a demographer's report, but we're going to now use it to help us respond to the continuing building projects in town. The school district is always able to put their 2 cents in, more or less, on these projects when they come up before the Township Committee or Planning Board or wherever they come. And we received a letter from our demographer that tells us what the impacts will be from these building projects on our district with increased enrollment. It could be significant. We're going to have, I think it's on the agenda tonight, to accept the donation for the water bottle filling stations at the high school. We're going to have a couple more water bottle filling stations. Those are donated by the senior class. We talked about that. Ms. Major from Sodexo was in to talk about healthy food choices. Our district is actually, as reported by her, one of the healthiest, I think. Came in number 2 out of 600 districts in healthiest districts for food choices. So that was good news. We had a long discussion with our liability insurer, Arthur J. Gallagher. Representatives came from Arthur J. Gallagher to talk to us about cybersecurity liability. So, for instance, if we have one of those attacks on our district computer system where they say, you get the blue screen and it says pay $1.2 million if you want your files back or something, we actually have insurance for that. And we have not only insurance, but also help to deal with that. If an attack like that happens or anything to do with cyber warfare directed against the district, even cyberbullying, we have coverage for that. And also, not only coverage, but they emphasized also professional help and direction if we needed to get through those difficult times. We talked about possibility of emergency state aid. Doesn't look good, but we talked about it. We also want to acknowledge that we very much, what am I trying to say? We very much appreciate the comments and concerns that we received from people working or going to summer enrichment at the middle school that found pests in the middle school. We have an ongoing pest control program. We employ Kavanaugh Pest Control, also EDI, which is our environmental group. They also help us with pest control. We looked into it, we're treating it, and it's going to be taken care of. I think that's it. That was a long meeting.
That's why it was a long meeting. Long report for a long meeting.
Yeah, thank you, sorry.
On the other hand, we have Mr. Pulsifer, who's going to give a very brief HR committee meeting.
Even briefer, because we met last Thursday and we have not had a chance to prepare review minutes for release to the board. But I'll give you a quick overview. We discussed the appointments that were on the agenda earlier this evening for the Director of Buildings and Grounds and the Supervisor of Visual Performing Arts and related areas. Can we get a shorter name for that? Because I'll never finish it. We got a staffing update. We still have a few positions to fill, but we're well on track to have all positions filled before the start of the new school year. So no problems there. We also discussed the compensation for unaffiliated staff and unaffiliated administrators, which is also on tonight's agenda. And there will be minutes forthcoming later on.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions on committee reports? I would just like to provide one comment that the community might be interested in. Right now, there are a number of affordable housing developments coming into our community, and in relation to what Greg says, we get sometimes, apparently, because not always, the opportunity to comment on the impact on the schools for these projects. There's one coming up, and it's going to be, the community impact statement is going to be discussed on Thursday at the planning board in the municipal building on a tract called the Sherman Tract, which is up north by Camplain Road near our Sunnymead School. There's a phase 1 that's 87 units, and phase 2 is going to be another 100 or so units, Greg? Mm-hmm. And the impact of children in a development such as that, out of the first 87 units, and forgive me if I'm not precise, but my recollection is that 10 of the 87 units are going to be 1-bedroom, and all of the others are going to be 2- and 3-bedroom units. Now, as I said, the community impact will be discussed at the planning board meeting with their expert on Thursday. And on April 13th, well, it was interesting. At the end of the last planning board meeting, the chairperson made a comment about, this development is fully tax exempt, but the township was going to be negotiating what is called a pilot payment in lieu of taxes with this developer. And traditionally, payments in lieu of taxes do not go to the schools. They go to 95% to the township and 5% to the county. However, at the end of the last planning board meeting, the chair made a statement of, if anybody's concerned about the pilot, they should go to the next township committee meeting, which is on April 13th, also at the municipal building, to hear how the pilot will be divided between the township, the county, and the schools. And of course, my ears peaked up. So I'll be at that meeting, and if anybody would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so.
Yeah, August 13th?
August 13th.
You keep saying April.
I'm
said
sorry.
April, Judy.
I'm sorry.
It's August.
August 13th, sorry. So, I'm
Judy,
looking-
that tract, I think, in 1926 received approval for to be split up into 1,500 lots or something.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, and it
But it never went
never got
anywhere.
developed at all. So, we could have had a whole city there.
It never went anywhere.
No, it never went anywhere.
And this might not go anywhere. But if it does go somewhere, along with all the other development that's been proposed in town lately, our schools are over capacity today. We're going to have a nightmare if there is not any additional money provided to us to accommodate that capacity. And, I don't know what the options are, but adding to our population while at the same time exempting them from property taxes hurts the schools. And this can't continue. I mean, it's just, adding on to all of the other difficulties that we have in terms of funding everything that we want to fund. It just compounds the problems. So it would be helpful if anybody wants to attend any of those meetings, pay attention to the community impact statements and express, as people who are in the classrooms, what the impacts are in the schools.
Judy, can I add one other thing? You might want to say this if you're persuasive when you go in August. If we receive the share of the pilot, that is money found above our 2% tax levy cap. If that properties are taxable, yes, that decreases everyone else's share of taxes, but it doesn't bring any new money into the district. So let's go for the pilot. It doesn't bring any new money, just because if all that was taxable, it would just, because we can't go above 2% tax levy increase, it would just decrease everyone else's. There'd be more people paying in.
Right.
But with a pilot, if you just got a slice of that, that's
Right.
not within the 2% tax levy cap, right?
That's correct.
It's found money, and Lord knows we could use some.
Yeah.
But again, we do have one way or the other, we do have these impacts coming as long as these projects go forward. So you know, and that goes with a lot of development projects, including those which do not include affordable housing, that get tax exemptions and tax abatements that hurt the schools. So help if you can. Anyway, onward. Seeing no questions on the committee reports, I'll go to the superintendent for the action agenda.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of education to approve travel and related expenses, the HIB cases, the agreement with TCNJ and the Professional Development Schools Network, approve overnight trips as listed, curriculum writing and common assessment development, and accept the FY 2020 IDEA grant funds, to approve the policies and regulations for second reading as listed, and that's all.
Okay, I'll take a motion and a second for items 11.1 through 11.7.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Sasan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
And Ms. Haas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Madam President. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions that I'm recommending under the area of human resources to approve retirements and resignations, including Jennifer Harmson, who's a 7th grade teacher, social studies teacher at our middle school, who has been working with us since 1997. A wonderful teacher, and we thank her for her service to the district. Also to approve motions and transfers of assignments, to approve revised leaves of absences and leaves of absences, to approve the revised appointment, and the board already acted on 12.6, to also affirm the appointments of teachers, long-term substitutes, instructional assistants, lunch aid, coaches, and substitutes as attached. Also to approve administrator internships, to approve extra period coverages for last year, and to pre-approve extra period coverages for next year. Also approve staff for the 2019 extended school year program and 2019 summer work, as well as the 2019 summer athletic coaches as listed. Approve administrator salary status change. Approve unaffiliated staff salaries for the 2019-2020 school year, as well as approve unaffiliated administrator salaries for the 2019-2020 school year.
Okay, I'll take a motion
I-
and second for
excuse me?
items 12.1 through 12.16 without 12.6.
Excuse me, before we do that, can we please separate 12.15 and 12.16?
Sure. So
Excuse
in
me?
that case, I'll take a
Oh.
motion for 12.1 through 12.5, 12.7 through 12.13.
14.
14.
13. Oh,
Through
14?
14. Through 14.
Okay, 14,
What she said. So moved.
what she said.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions about those items? Seeing none, may we have a roll call?
Sure. Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Sasan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
Ms. Haas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, may I have a motion and second for item 12.15 and 12.16?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any comments?
So going back to what I'd said earlier about the supervisor of visual arts position, with respect to the unaffiliated staff, both staff and administrators, I'm against any, well, okay, so let me go back. During the budget discussion process back in April, Dr. Harris had suggested a salary freeze for all staff. However, the majority of staff are under contracts, so it's contractually stipulated, so that would not be possible. For these particular staff, they're unaffiliated, and while it's unpleasant, I feel that giving a salary increase of, I believe it's 2.55% across the board for both staff and administrators would be irresponsible of this board. When I had calculated the budget, during the budget process, what that calculated out to be. That's about $50,000. And so, and I understand, you know, these individuals could have joined the, what do they call it? Like union, I guess. They could have joined bargaining units. They did not, and it's not fair, but so are many of the other choices that we had to make that were unfair too. So because of that, I am against this proposal.
Any other comments? Chris?
Just for clarification, this was not for a number of them, and I think it's the ones I had mentioned earlier, it's not a question of could but did not, it's could not. They are not allowed to be in the bargaining unit.
I understand that. And
But
that's
okay, I
unfair.
understand, but that wasn't the words you used. I want to make sure
Sorry,
that
okay,
people
thank you-
understand when
thank
they're
you for
listening,
clarification.
that these are people who are not allowed to be in the bargaining unit. So that, after that clarification. To that point, and with respect to the number of people on this list, it's not a long list. While I understand your point, I think it amounts to being a punishment for a very small group of people compared to the rest of the employees in the district to have their salaries frozen.
Well, it's
I
actually
don't-
not a punishment because it's going to pass.
I still get to make a comment, right? Thank you. I believe suggesting that we freeze their salaries when nobody else's salaries are being frozen amounts to punishing them because they're not affiliated, and I don't think that's right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have comments? Okay, roll call, please.
We're doing these together?
Do you want them separate? We motioned them separately.
Yeah. No, we motioned them together.
We motioned them together, separate from the rest.
Well,
Yes.
let me suggest you could say yes on one and no on the other.
I can say that right now?
Sure. Well, I mean, no, when you vote, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm the first to vote.
Oh, sorry.
And I haven't made up my mind yet. I was stalling for time. I'm trying to stall for time, see if I can get it separated together, one after the other, maybe figure out alphabetical order.
You need to change your last
All
name,
right,
Greg.
so, yeah, all right, go, let's go.
Are you okay
Yeah,
with
I'm
it
okay,
or not?
Yep, I'm okay.
Okay.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Abstain.
Miss Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Miss Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Sasan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
No.
Ms. Haas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. I ask for the board's consideration of the following motions under the area of operations: to approve monthly financials, monthly bill list, and a motion to authorize the superintendent to apply for emergency aid. Also to approve cafeteria lunch prices for the 2019-2020 school year, to accept the donation of 3 water bottle filling stations as reported out by Chairman Gillette from the Operations Committee. And we thank the Hillsborough High School senior classes of both 2018 and 2019 for their generosity. Also to approve out-of-district placement as listed, to approve policies for first and another policy for second reading.
Okay, may I have a motion and second for items 13.1 through 13.8?
So moved.
Thank you, Greg. Second?
Second?
Yes.
I'd like to separate out 13.7 to vote separately.
13.7. Okay. Any other separations? Okay, so we're doing 13.1 through 13.6 and 13.8.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I've made this comment almost every year when we talk about cafeteria prices, that I don't think there should be any snack item that is a $3 ice cream cone, especially when kids can use their POS to purchase it without parental consent. But that being said, I realize that I'm in the minority of the board, but I wanted to be internally consistent. So thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions or comments on 13.1 through 13. Whatever it is.
13.8.
13.8.
I'd like to make a comment. I just really appreciate the motion to accept the donation. I just think that's an awesome donation that's being made.
Yep.
I'm very mindful of our environment and, hopefully to encourage students to bring their own reusable water bottles. And that's a very generous and thoughtful donation.
Yes. Every year at graduation, our senior class contributes either for charitable purposes or purposes that support the school system. And it's always very, very nice to see the efforts that they make in order to raise that money. So yes, thank you, senior class. Are we ready for a roll call? Okay, roll.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
Yes.
And Ms. Haas?
Yes,
Motion passes.
great. And now we have a motion to approve item number 13.7.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
I'm just being consistent with how I voted previously.
I'm sorry?
I said I separated it out to be consistent with how I voted previously.
Okay. Any other comments? Roll call.
Mr. Gillette?
Yes.
Dr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. Eldridge Howard?
Yes.
Ms. Maroon?
Yes.
Mr. Pulsifer?
Yes.
Dr. Susan?
Yes.
Ms. Stats?
Yes.
Ms. Trujillo?
No.
Ms. Haas?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. We have some informational matters on the agenda, which I hope you've all looked at. And now we go to our second public comment section for any old business.
Good evening, Henry Goodhue, Hillsborough Education Association, as well as Laurel Drive. I just would like to comment on the discussion that took place for 12.15 and 12.16. And I certainly do not begrudge anybody receiving a raise commensurate to what they contribute to this district. Obviously, that's why I'm here representing the 1,100 members of the Hillsborough Education Association with my fellow officers, our members, and our action team. So I certainly have absolutely no ill will towards anyone who receives a raise, but I think it's important to make a distinction because a correlation was drawn between giving a raise to a small group of people versus providing one to a larger group of people. And while I understand from a sum, an aggregate amount, I understand the argument. The fact is that you were discussing giving individuals a 2.5, a 2.55, 2.6, whatever that rounds up to, that raise goes to them individually. The raises that our members receive, when people hear, oh, it's 2 this, it's 3 that, whatever that may be, that percent does not go to our members individually. Pieces of that, tenths of a percent, go to our members for the work that they do. So while you sit up there and you discuss whether or not someone is actually deserving of a 2 and change raise, you're actually, through your actions, saying that our members don't deserve the 0.2% that they would receive through the settlements that we get. And I think it's important to note that distinction as we move forward and make sure that that is clearly out there. I think it's also important to note the distinction that was drawn between the words could not and did not, because it's not a question of whether you could not give us a raise, it's actually that you did not give us a raise and that you refused to settle a fair and equitable contract with our members, and that needs to be on the record. Thank you.
Are you making any further comment?
It looked like Mr. Pulsifer wanted to respond, so I wanted to make sure I was here.
Normally, I wouldn't respond here, but since I think you misquoted me, I want to make sure we're clear on this. I said nothing about could not versus did not give a raise. What I stipulated was it was presented that some people on that list did not join the bargaining unit. My point was it was not that they did not, it was they could not join the bargaining unit. It was nothing about did not or could not get a raise.
And
So
I
for clarity
appreciate
sake,
that.
that was what I said. If you can say your opinions all you want, but if you're going to attribute to my comments, I would ask that you respect what my comment was. Thank you.
Absolutely, and if you'll review mine, you will note that I talked about specifically the word itself. not your comments. What I noted was the distinction made between ability versus doing it. So the difference between could not versus do not. I did not say that you spoke in reference to raises. In fact, you did use those in reference to affiliated with a bargaining unit. I duly recognize that on the record. I hope that you recognize that my distinction was made that you have not given us a raise. It's not that you could not give us a raise. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
All right, hi, my name is Michael, this is Pratik. We just recently graduated high school from Washington Hills Regional High School, and we're here to present a project we've been working on for the past 10 months or so. So we're the project's called Share School. We're part of the founding team, although we do have 17 members currently. So Share School is a platform and a marketplace where schools can offload their surplus and receive educational materials at a low cost. And so we've been in public education our entire lives. And something that we've noticed is that schools don't really have the opportunity to really maximize their surplus. And so what I mean by this, like, for example, code regulations like 18A really restrict the ability they can use with their surplus. And so we've gone to a lot of other districts, and they brought up like a GovDeal platform that they use to really offload their surplus, and there's a bidding process with that. It's pretty hectic, it's bad user interface. And so we're modernizing that system with the Share School platform. And the way it works is that we're domain specific to education, so a school-to-school transaction, so we don't have to deal with that bidding process. And we really help out districts with the flexible platform that we're offering. So we've spoken to around 6 to 7 districts. We're currently pilot testing, so we're looking to recruit other districts who are wanting to join our platform for free. And so we would love to work with you guys in the future, and Pratik will speak a little bit more about the pilot testing opportunity for you guys.
Yeah, so as Michael mentioned, we're looking to get our pilot test going right now, and as he said, we've spoken to about 6 to 7 districts that are interested in joining our pilot test, and we were wondering if you'd be interested in joining our network of interconnected schools that are looking to share, buy, sell, and donate their surplus materials with each other. And basically our vision for Shared School is that in the future, schools that are part of our platform will be able to share both their services and their surplus materials among each other. For example, a school that has maybe microscopes that they use in one classroom for 60 days out of a 180-day school year could put their microscopes on our platform for the remaining 120 days that they're not being used, and then teachers that from another school who don't have access to these more expensive materials like microscopes, maybe even VR headsets, something like that, they would have the ability to rent these expensive materials from other schools, and that way, on one side, the materials aren't going to waste and they're not just sitting there in closets when not being used, and on the other side, teachers will be able to have access to materials that they otherwise would never be able to use. So hopefully we'd be able to continue talking with you guys. If you have any questions, let us know. We'll be here till the end of the meeting.
Thank you. It may be helpful for you to send your materials to our business office. Our business administrator can review them. Thank you.
Thanks. Great. Thanks so much.
My name is Dorianne Shimami. I am a resident, I am a parent, and I am also an instructional aide in the school district. So I come to you to present some of my points of view from all of those areas. 2 things were said tonight that I found very impressive. One thing was that, once again, our city, our township, was considered the 6th best city. We have routinely, if you can say such a thing about such a great honor, we have routinely ranked high, and not just as a town, but most prominently for our education system. I have been the beneficiary of our education system through my children. My one son is typical, neurotypical. My other son is special education. So I have seen all cross-sections of faculty and staff throughout this district. Luke was transferred from HES to Woodfern. Stephen spent most of his grade school time in HES. They've both been at Aris. My youngest is now at the middle school, and my oldest is now in the high school. So there's a long and distinguished career for both of them. The other very impressive thing that I heard was, I believe, Ms. Haas saying that we would always want everyone to treat others the way we want to be treated. So if I can put those two things together for a moment, as both a parent and an employee, we work hard, and I know you guys do too. Every person that's sitting here today puts their blood, sweat, and tears every day into these children. We love them. I don't know if that's politically correct to say or not, but we do. We love them. We spend a lot of time with our kids, especially our most needy kids. I get to say that because I'm an instructional aide, so my kids are the neediest of the needy. So when we're doing these negotiations, the thing that I would really like to ask is that everybody remembers number one and number two. We are one of the best places to live because one huge part of that is what our community can give to our children. And one huge part of what our community can give to our children is their education. The other part of that is that if we treat each other the way that we're supposed to treat each other, this shouldn't be that hard. I know that I'm talking in lofty terms, but it's true. Everybody sitting here knows it. There doesn't have to be all kinds of pushback. There can be a lot of cooperation. We do it every day. We have to. One of the things that my principal impresses upon us over and over and over again, almost to the point that you want to cover your ears, is you've got to be flexible. You've got to work with what we've got. And we do every day. So I work at Sunnymead School. To what you guys were saying about the growth in population, I can tell you already, it is nuts. I'll let it go, okay, it's nuts. We are crowded against all crowded. I don't even know where we'll put the rest of the kids. We have more sections of more grades than we've ever had before, to my knowledge. And I've been there 5 years, going on 6 now. And in that population, we have, I believe, you can check the population statistics yourself, but I believe we have a lot more needy students, a lot more ELL, a lot more special ed. So we're doing a lot all the time with very little. If you can work with the union, if you can work with us, I'm sure we can work with you. We need to do this. Our children depend on it. Our community relies on it. And our future is made through our children. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments for public comment?
Just wait.
Hi, my name is Stacy West-Tucson. I live at 21 Bennett Road here in Hillsborough, and my daughter just graduated from Hillsborough High School. She attended kindergarten here and made it all the way through the system, and I'm very proud of her, and I'm very thankful to the school system that helped her be successful, and she's going off to college. Yay. With that being said, I wanted you to hear from a parent who is just a parent in Hillsborough. You've heard a lot from teachers here tonight, and I wanted you to know that the teachers do have support of the parents in the district. I wanted to make sure that that was very clear. Also, I was a little disappointed. I probably come to these meetings once every few years, usually when it's looking like the teachers aren't going to have a contract. And I was disappointed that they talked to you and that there has been no comment or acknowledgement of them here tonight from the school board. They came here in the summer, many of them with their children, and I just, Dr. Schiff, you did acknowledge a flyer from a person who did not distinguish themselves or make themselves known. It was an anonymous flyer that was awful, but you have some non-anonymous faces here who have also made some comments, and I would just like some acknowledgement of what they've had to say tonight. Please work with them, please settle the contract, and please acknowledge and respect their time and the fact that they're here tonight. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers who would like to be heard?
Just you, it's up to you.
Do you want to say something?
No,
Okay.
it's you, Judy.
Okay,
You're on.
cool. Yeah, in due respect to the last two people who spoke, I do want to make very clear, I do not think that our goals are different. It is certainly in the interest of the school district to have a contract. I'm very disappointed that despite the fact that we started last November, in the hope that we would have a contract settled before, certainly before the expiration of the previous contract, that it didn't get done. And I think everybody can acknowledge that there were a lot of unfortunate intermediary issues that came up in late spring. But I do think we all want the same thing. And I hope that we can get there very, very shortly. Now that we're in the mediation situation, we're not able to control the dates that we meet. And unfortunately, our next date for mediation is after the school year begins, and I'm personally very disappointed about that. But I do think we have, we've attended all those meetings. We were there for, as Henry said, 9 hours at our first mediation session. And just so that the public understands, mediators don't usually stick around for 9 hours if they don't feel that they're making progress. So I took that as a positive sign, and I hope that from wherever we ended off at the last meeting, we can continue there and get this done. It is not in anybody's interest to go into a new school year and continue on without a settled contract. But I hope that, I just want also the public, I'm sure everybody in the audience knows, but I want the public to know that employees continue to work under the expired agreement and continue to receive salaries, medical insurance, sick days, and all of the other benefits of that contract until a new contract is signed. So, yes, hopefully we can get that done at our next session. That is certainly my hope. So, with that,
No,
if there's...
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I have another comment unrelated to this.
Okay.
Okay. So in operations, I had brought up the idea of separate to the infrastructure referendum, a referendum to ask for the state aid that we lost in this budget cycle in the amount of about $500,000, and also a part two for the amount that we're slated to lose in the next school year, basically. And I wanted to bring it to the full board to have a discussion as to whether there's interest in drafting a resolution to have that in November.
Is there anybody interested in having that discussion right now?
I'll say something about it, but I think Lorraine was first.
I was just going to suggest that I think that's on the, that could be on the agenda for our meeting, whatever we're calling it next week.
Well,
Our workshop next week.
in that case, since I'm going to be out of town, not attending the retreat, I'll make my comment brief and right now.
Sure.
I don't think $500,000 or even $1.5 million is worth putting on a referendum. It'll take $3.5 million to restore the positions that were cut in March, or whenever, when at the time of the failed referendum. So I'd be in favor of a referendum for about $3.5 million. Again, not November, because we'll have to have more discussion about it. We won't be ready for November, but after the first of the year, the same as we did last year. Around budget time, we should also plan on a referendum for, I would say, it'll take $3.5 million to restore these positions, and that's what I've said since right as the referendum failed. I said my position would be to restore the positions. Now, we don't need the whole, $5.5 million, because we've made up some of that with the fees, elimination of courtesy busing, and the other things we did. Unfortunately, yes, curriculum writing took a hit, and other things too. But at a minimum, we should be looking to restore enough money in the tax base to restore the positions that were lost. So I don't think, bottom line, I don't think $500,000 or maybe a little more than that would be even worth having a referendum about. We need the full amount. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I mean, honestly, I really do think we need to regroup and have, more discussion about any of these kinds of proposals. I think to do it at the end of a meeting as part of public comment or board comment is not the time to deal with this. We need to figure out, as Greg said, an appropriate amount and go forward with some planning and timing. And I mean, honestly, what is going to be different? And how can we come to a different response from the public if we turn around and try to do this again in November with no calculation, no planning, no, further.
Are we going to executive session?
No further discussion. Do we need to go to executive session?
Oh, we're not going to? Oh, okay.
No. Well, do you
I thought we were
want
going
more
for
discussion?
reports.
I thought we were done.
We covered it?
I think so.
All right.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So with that,
I have one more comment unrelated to that, unless Lorraine or Jane had.
I would like us to seriously consider adding a second resolution for November. I've had a concern about having anything other than any kind of referendum besides November, for two reasons: the cost to the public when it's at other times of the year, and also you're more likely to have people show up in November, and I don't want us to, whatever the purpose is, to have it else at other times. I think it's best to do what can attract the most people to vote at any time, including for a referendum.
so your suggestion is?
If we do, I would like us to, two things. I want us to consider seriously adding another question for the referendum in November related to adding.
Tax levy? Tax levy.
Yeah, or.
Tax levy increase.
Okay, well.
I only commented because I'm not going to be here, but I think it's better to do the tax levy questions during the budget time. It makes more sense to me to do it during the budget time. I think it's a budget's on everybody's mind, even the public. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Okay. So,
And then-
with that,
One final, sorry. Unrelated to that, I just wanted to inform the public that the filing deadline for this November's Board of Education seats are due to the Somerset County Clerk on Monday, July 29th at 4 p.m. Thank you.
very well. Do this.
Yeah, I can't.
Excuse me.
I really can't recommend it.
Okay, so with
Judy,
that,
Excuse me, need a clarification of something that you had said, may I?
sure.
My name is Robin DeVinson, 721 DeCamp Drive. I need a clarification from the lawyer. You had said that the mediation was going well and that we can't get another meeting until mid-September, but that's not necessarily true. The board can call a meeting anytime. They don't need the mediator to do that. So if it was going well, the board can go back and have a discussion next week if they wanted to. Am I correct?
Without a mediator.
So if it was going so well, I would think that would have happened. And because it's not, it lets me know that we're not working. It's not working. And we need to do better. You need to do better. Thank you.
Yeah, we really ended public comment. But
May I make just one comment
Sure.
related to the referendum?
Sure.
My name's Erin Morris. I live on Valete Drive here in Hillsborough. I have 4 children in the district. My concerns related to your choices of when to place things on a referendum goes to what Ms. Stats said. If you look at the trends of voting in the town of Hillsborough, clearly our largest voter turnout is in the month of November. And I am a firm believer that the spring referendum did not pass because of the time of year that it was put into place, where voter turnout is much lower, among many other reasons that I won't get into right now when it came to the presentation of what voters were voting on. But I would encourage you to exercise some forethought in placing forward these choices for our voters and putting it in a plan that, like Ms. Stats said, brings the most voters to the polls to get what the school district needs in order to provide for our teachers and our students. Thank you.
so, yes, what was that? Oh, yes. At this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We're adjourned.